So we had left off with Montag and Mildred first opening a book, her not understanding anything and being angry about it. Montag saying, hey, we'll start over the beginning, trying to actually figure it out, try to put some thought into this. We then start part 2 of our book. There are 3 different parts. That first part was the hearth and the salamander. This part is the sieve and the sand. In this reading, or in this first section, you did find out about the sieve and the sand. It was tough the way it was mixed in when he's on the train, but we will look at that shortly. It starts with them still reading books, and the first thing he talks about is how one thing going on in the book talks about friendship and how something overflows, and he realizes that's like Clarice, this girl that was so great and had this big impact. Mildred's like, I don't want to talk about her. He then reads a different quote about yourself. She understands this. She is very focused on herself. These next 2 pages, all about the hound. Because there's a snort at the door, and Mildred says, it's just a dog. But Montag's like, stay there. He knows it's not just a dog, it is the hound. It is that 8-legged beast that can smell anybody out. Would have been sent by the fireman, and he was kind of creeped out by the hound before. So tells him to stay back, don't look. They then get back to the work of reading the books. He has an exchange with Mildred. She's like, these books aren't people, there's nothing going on in them. My walls are people, they're my family. What if Captain Beatty actually finds out we're doing this? He burns our house. It might burn my family, burn these walls. And she has this maniacal look in her eyes. We hear jets go over, and Montag just says, Jesus God. Whether it's like, oh my God, there's jets going over, we're going to go to war, or oh my God, my wife is crazy about walls. Either way, all of this statement is supposed to be these things in the sky, these bombers. And then Montag gets talking and thinking, this is a different future. They've won 2 atomic wars since 1990. So not our lived past that we know, because this was a future projected out. And he's just like, nobody cares. Why doesn't anybody care? Why does everybody hate us? Why is the world this way? Maybe if we read these books, we could figure it out and understand why we're at war, why all these things go on. She says nothing. She's just there in the dark, literally, figuratively. The phone beeps. And among all the crazy technology changes of the future, it's funny that this is a corded phone. Just one of those little things. Someone has called her, one of her friends, that The White Clown is on tonight. The White Clown is this one TV show that she's really into. You will see some images of it in this week's reading. It's like actually very violent. Montag goes off and thinks to himself, like, where do we go? How do I figure this out? What do I do? He then thinks back, like, hey, where do I find a teacher? Like, Mildred, she's not going to help. Like, it's mud. Like, he can't understand it. Nothing is clear. Clear as mud. It's just, bleh. Then he realizes, how am I going to find a teacher? He has a flashback. He thinks back in this thought bubble, like, a day in the park, city park a year ago, there was this guy. So all these warm-colored images are a flashback. And it's kind of cool that you can see it's so dark and so blue. And then this flashback, it is bright and it's a warmer color as he thinks about this interaction with this man. Guy's name is Faber. When he first sees Faber, looks suspicious with a book in his pocket. Being a fireman, you can barely see the little fireman symbol in all these different spots. Tells him to wait. Guy's like, I didn't do anything. They just sit there. Montag just stops them. They sit on this bench, don't say anything. For an hour. Guy says his name, says a poem, puts his hand on the book. Montag doesn't try to take the book, just sits there. Guy starts to talk that he wants to know about the meaning, wants to know he's alive, have this interest, doesn't just want to talk about things. So just silent. And then the guy says this. Gives Montag all of his information, and Montag just leaves. So even a year ago, he had this interaction. It's kind of in his head that we talk a lot about Clarice having impact on him, but a year ago, he did not turn this guy in for having a book. So things maybe a little bit deeper, longer going for Montag than we thought. And this is almost like that famous image of the thinker, like his hand to his face, to his mouth, like he is listening to this man. So Faber is going to be important. He calls Faber, this teacher, this guy, had it still in his file, that piece of paper he had, starts asking him questions about books. He's like, are there any Bibles left in the country? Shakespeare, Plato? So we're talking famous books, famous authors, famous thinkers. And Faber's like, no, there's none of those. Like, nothing like that. Mildred, ladies are coming over. They're going to watch the White Clown. Montag's like, this is the Bible. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. She's more worried about Captain Beatty, who could possibly burn her family, a.k.a. the Walls. Montag says, you know what? I'll give a substitute. Like, I think I could give a substitute, but if I give a substitute, maybe he's going to know I have more than one book. So he says he's going to go try to get a duplicate copy of the book made because he doesn't know necessarily what book Captain Beatty thinks he has. And if he gives a copy, it could be worse. And his big plan, or if he gives a different one, it could be worse. So now he's going to go try to make a copy. It says the ladies are coming over. Montag's like, do they actually love you? Called them the family before, but asked, do they love you? This supposed family, do they love you? Are they so great? She won't even answer, just kind of side eyes him, goes off. Talks about the dog, because from earlier, the hound is out there. Montag gets on the train. He thinks to himself, like, why am I so numb? Why do I feel this way? He realizes the night he kicked the pill bottle was when he started feeling numb. Earlier that day is also when he saw Clarice, asked if he was happy. He's like, how can I get this numbness to go away? Faber? Maybe Faber could help. These things in the yellow are describing like a flashback or him thinking what's going on or what's going on around him. Subway things go by. These images, this is why this whole section is called the sieve in the sand. Because a sieve is something that you use to sort different size objects. He was trying to fill up a sieve with all this sand, and sand has very fine particles, so it wouldn't stay there. It wouldn't fill. You can't fill up a sieve with sand. It's impossible. It's all going to keep going through. Like if you think about physical science or earth science, when you talk about particle sizes, the particles are too small. He can't stop it. It all just goes straight through the filter. He holds nothing. And he has this image of being at the beach as a kid. The cousin is like, hey, fill this up. I'll give you a dime. So he's this little kid trying to fill this thing with sand, but it all keeps going through the bottom. He's like, I can do it, but he can't. And you're like, okay, whatever, Montag. You thought about your childhood. Cool. The big thing is, same thing's happening with a book. He's like, there's all these words on the page. I got to get all these words on the page to stick in my head. I got to understand it. I got to fill my brain. I got to be smart. I got to know these things so I can understand the world. Nothing sticks. All the words go in one ear, out the other, go straight through his brain. His brain is a sieve. It can't make anything stick, can't make anything stay. And you probably watched that YouTube video I posted before. And you just see that sand go straight through as that guy just shakes and shifts that screen, that sieve a little, all falls straight through. Same thing as Montag is riding on this train. His brain is a sieve. Words, learning, understanding, comprehension, memory of a book is that sand going straight through it. Wants to memorize it, but he can't. This guy side eyes him like, who's this weirdo with the book? And actually says, call the guard. Because we see somebody with a book. He runs off. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's a book. He runs through them here. They're like, look at that crazy dude. Can you believe it? He's got a book. And he runs off in the dark. This is Montag actually getting to Faber's house. Faber is very cautious. Like, hey, I don't know what's going on. But does see the Bible. As soon as Montag comes in, Montag tells him, like, all the terrible things that have been happening. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. All these crazy things are happening. Thought that you might be able to help me because I saw you read a book before. So you must know all these things because you're the only person I can think of who actually reads books who might help me. That is the extent. Pours himself out. Hopefully Faber can help. Faber wants to see the book. Faber's not religious, but he's still always loved books, loved the smell of them. But then starts talking about like he feels guilty because he saw this coming. He saw books leaving. He saw that this could happen and they could go away. And he actually feels guilty that he didn't speak up sooner, try to do something when he realized that this could have been his future. Starts to ask Montag, but why are you really here? Montag says nobody listens to him. He can't talk to anybody. He wants to actually understand what he reads, wants Faber to teach him how to understand what he reads. And Faber's just like, how'd you get to the point that you want to do this? Like, you're fireman. So it's this idea of we have all the stuff to be happy, but we're not. Realize something must be missing if we're so unhappy. And he realized the only thing that would be missing is books. Because in the last 10 or 12 years, the only thing that's really gone away is the books that he has burnt. They go forward. And Faber talks to him all about books. He's like, okay, if you want to understand books and what you've been burning, here's my piece. Talks about the magic of books and then goes through 3 things that books have. He says books have quality. He's like, books have depth, they have pores, they have details. It's not just this quick flowery thing. Talks about fireworks and flowers and that people just want the beauty, the excitement, the bang. Books have more than that. Books have detail, they have interactions, they have people, they have texture. Next thing. When you read a book that has texture, you then need leisure to think about it, to be like, what did I just read? What did I just see? You need a book you can actually close, sit back, think what this character just do, what that person thinking. Whereas in their society, they're going 100 miles an hour. Everything rushes by. The TV, it just hits you with things. It blasts it in. We got this family. We got people. We got this. They got that. People don't ever get a second to think. They're just inundated. Can't shut it down. Third thing you would need. Actually be allowed to carry out actions. In their society, everybody just has all these things. It's quick, it's flashy, it's fireworks, it's flowers. You can't stop, you can't think, and you just move along. If you could actually read a book with texture, stop and think, and then act on those thoughts, that's the important thing. Like, that's what you need. That's the importance of books and their ability to change you, make you think, make you act. Faber's like, but it's too late. We can't get books. Can't happen. Montag says he can get books and makes this bold statement of like, kind of willing to die for this. He's got nothing to lose. He can run any risk. Tells this idea of maybe I could even get extra copies made. Faber's like, don't tell me. I don't want any part in this. I don't, he was a coward before. Maybe we still see that cowardice. Montag wants to tell him the plan. Faber kind of guesses at this plan, like, oh, if you could make all these books, we could hide them in firemen's houses, and we could call in the firemen, and then the firemen's own houses would be burnt down. It'd be like this crazy conspiracy theory. And he's like, yeah, I'm just joking, though. Montag's like, yeah, but that could work. We could make that happen. Like, maybe we could. They're kind of like, are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. He's like, that's a crazy plan. Montag says, well, I have a list of where all the firemen are, so maybe we could do this. Faber's like, I don't know if we could really trust people, though. Like, we have, there are actors who haven't done any of this in a while, but, like, who are we actually going to trust? Like, who else can actually do this? He's hoping that some of these other people who are angry might do something, but firemen aren't really all that necessary. Most people don't really care. Most people don't care about the books. And he says, like, we can't do anything to make it more interesting than these families and what's going on. Wait for war. All these bombers going over, wait for them to kill everybody off, and maybe we'll start over. Montag's like, yeah, we'll start over with books. We'll tell them things when they get back. Faber's like, we're going to tell them stories. It's going to redeem the world. Probably not. They argue back and forth a little bit. Montag gets him to care by ripping pages out of the book. And he's like, if you really care, I'll give you this book. Faber says he'll actually help. How Faber is going to help him? He's going to give him this little radio to put in his ear because Montag is worried when he goes back to see Captain Beatty that he's going to be drowned by all Beatty's words. He needs an umbrella to keep him off. The umbrella that's going to keep it off is going to be this thing in his ear so that Faber can talk to him, tell him what to think, tell him to stay calm, and also hear how Beatty's trying to make him feel. He actually gives him the Bible, says he'll turn in a substitute, leaves, and the big thing is I'm running out of time. Montag is worried that he's still just doing what other people are telling him to do. He's just going to do what Faber tells him to do. He's still not thinking for himself. He doesn't want to be told what to do. He doesn't want to change just to do that. He makes it back home to eat, and then his wife's friends are coming over. I got 3 seconds left. Thank you for listening. Contact